Pittsburgh game is going to be a shootout. Hilton went off last week. I'm surprised that not so many people are on Landry and Hilton. I mean, I know there's a lot of receivers to choose from and a lot of good games going on this week, but, and also I think it benefits us that Hilton had a pretty slow start to his season. I think in the last few games he's starting to come alive. Hasselbeck's, pouring his heart out, and Hilton's the main beneficiary right now. So I got him in a lot of my lineups, especially when I have some Pittsburgh players on the other side, because that game flow really dictates whether or not it's going to be a run heavy or pass heavy game. So think about pairing Hilton with Martavis Bryant or Antonio Brown. Martavis Bryant, like I said, same thing, almost the same ownership level, 8.7%. This guy is an animal. He's got 6 touchdown catches on the year, 20.4 DraftKings points on average per game. He's getting a lot of looks. A lot of teams are double teaming and even triple teaming Antonio Brown, and for good reason. I mean, he might be the best receiver in the game, but Bryant has been reaping the benefits of that. He's getting a lot of catches. He's making a lot of really impossible, plays. I just think he's an animal, man. I mean, he's tall. He's just an athlete, and he makes a lot of good catches. And so far, I haven't seen a lot of bum games out of him. I mean, we got to make sure that Ben Roethlisberger's playing, but I don't think that should be an issue. It seems like he's good to go, and I think these are 2 good, solid picks. And my last wide receiver for the week is Jordan Matthews for the Eagles. I know New England's got a hell of a defense, but I see Philly being behind. Sam Bradford is supposed to come back this week. And I think, Chip Kelly, he's on the hot seat. I think he's, anxious to prove something in a big game against, arguably the best team in the league. And who knows? I mean, they probably still will get slaughtered, but I expect them to be down and to be airing it out. I mean, DeMarco Murray has been inconsistent at best. Ryan Matthews is still hurt, and Ertz is hurt. They don't have a whole lot of options in the offense, so Matthews has been pretty consistent, and I expect him to get a lot of looks on Sunday. All right, so let's take a look at some of the tight ends. Last week Julius Thomas, he had a pretty good game. He's been having kind of a bum year. It's kind of the same as with Jimmy Graham in Seattle. It just seems like they don't know how to use him. In Denver, in previous years, he was the man. He could have been the best tight end in the league. But for some reason this year, he just hasn't been coming to life. But it seems like lately him and Bortles are starting to connect. And, he's going to be 6.6% owned. He's pretty low priced. I like him. Another guy I like is Ben Watson at 1.5%. He's $4,400. I mean, that really fits, when you're running out of cap room there at the end. And again, Carolina, one of the best defenses in the league. And New Orleans, one of the worst defenses in the league, if not the worst. So I expect Carolina to be way far ahead. Breeze only has a few options, really, as far as Cooks and Snead go, but I see Carolina really keeping them in check, and I see a lot of 10, 15, 20-yard passes over the middle to Ben Watson. I mean, he's been hit or miss. He's getting old, but, he's put up some huge games too. So he's averaging over 12 points a game. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year. I expect big things out of him this game. Travis Kelce, 6.1% owned, which, isn't too low, but it's really not that high. And I expected a lot more for him at 4,700. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year. He's averaging 13.7 DraftKings points, and he's going against Oakland, who has the worst pass defense in the league. So I expect big things from him. I'm going to have him in about half of my lineups. So hopefully he doesn't let us down, but, he got a touchdown last week and some good yardage, so we'll see what happens. My last tight end is Antonio Gates. I recommended him last week. Again, this is kind of a contrarian pick because a lot of people will stay away from him. You're playing against Denver's defense, who has the best pass defense in the league, basically. But when you look at the Chargers, they're not just going to lay down and die. But what do they really have? I mean, Phillip Rivers is has been pretty terrible when facing elite defenses. But they're having a hard time running the ball. Melvin Gordon's not really doing much. The only really options they have in the pass game are Stevie Johnson and Antonio Gates. And Gates seems to be healthy. He's only 3.7% owned. He's pretty cheap at 4,900 compared to Barnage and all that. So, and Olsen, and that's another one I want to mention I didn't get to put on here. Greg Olsen, I believe, has a shot to be the best tight end this week, but he's pretty expensive. You'll see him on the honorable mentions page, but these are some cheap guys. You're starting to see the theme here, I think, is that we're looking for cheap, low-owned players. Antonio Gates, 4,900. That is, 24.5 points, and he'll make what it's worth to us to get to 260 total. I mean, I've seen Antonio Gates put up games like that plenty of times. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. So consider him for a couple of your lineups. Okay, some honorable mentions that we didn't get to cover. I don't like to do a lot of the more expensive chalk plays on these videos. I mean, anyone that's watching this video probably reads the other websites and watches the other videos too, and they cover a lot of those. I like to cover more of the guys that nobody else mentions that I think are going to hit it big. And, with that territory comes some misses. So, don't be upset with me if, Antonio Gates catches one pass for 12 yards, but it happens. But hopefully I can help give you guys a little bit of insight into my thought process, and for whatever that's worth, hopefully it wins you some money. So Cam Newton and Tom Brady, they're the two highest priced quarterbacks this week, and they're for good reason. They're the two best quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, Carson Palmer's a close third, but those two are just killers. I mean, all three of those guys, I think, are have really good matchups. They're going to have good weeks. Cam Newton, he can run the ball. He gets a lot of rushing touchdowns. Him and Olsen, I think, are going to hook up for one or two this week, so look out for that. Russell Wilson had a huge game against Pittsburgh. He's a top-tier quarterback this week. I think they're getting off the run a little bit. I mean, Marshawn Lynch kind of strung him along there for 2 months or so, and I think, even though Rawls is a beast, I think they're going to, they've seen and proven that, they can excel in the passing game. So look out for Wilson. And Baldwin, he's got, Jimmy Graham is injured, so he doesn't have that option, but he's got Jermaine Kearse. He's got Doug Baldwin, who caught 3 touchdowns last week. I mean, he's got options, and Wilson can also run too. Cousins has been good lately. Tyrod Taylor's been great. They like to run it a little too much for my liking, but I still like to put Taylor in a couple with Sammy Watkins. He had 30-plus points last week. Marcus Mariota is hit or miss. He's had some good games, and he's got a good matchup against Jacksonville. And Derek Carr, Oakland going against KC, it's not the best matchup for him, but, don't avoid him too much, because the last thing you want to do is not have one of these guys in a lineup when they go off. So stick him in a couple if you can. Running back, we mentioned Doug Martin. Atlanta is the worst defense in the league against the run, so he's an automatic start if you can afford him. Rawls is a machine. Adrian Peterson is, one of the best of all time. He doesn't have a great matchup, but, he's matchup proof most of the time, so I'm definitely going to have him in a few. C.J. Anderson and or Ronnie Hillman, who knows, really? That's why they're kind of hard for me to play, but one or both of them is going to have a huge game. David Johnson in Arizona. Chris Johnson's out. They're going to be way ahead of St. Louis. I imagine Carson Palmer is, going to do well in the first half. I like him with John Brown. Larry Fitzgerald's a little too expensive for that matchup for me, but a lot of people are going to have David Johnson. That's the only problem. I mean, I have him in a few, of course, just because he's so cheap. He's at, I believe, 3,400. So don't sleep on him, but I don't want to have him in too many just in case he does fizzle out. You're going to get a huge leg up on the rest of the field. LaShawn McCoy's poised to have a big week. He's got a good matchup. Jeremy Langford or Matt Forte, again, kind of running back by committee, hard for me to place, who's going to get the most looks that week or who's going to really have a breakout run. So look out for both of them. But, The same thing with D'Angelo Williams. It depends on how that game goes. I mean, he is the highest owned running back on the FanDuel Thursday, so he could have a huge game. I mean, at one point he was averaging 125 yards a game. So, look out for him too. Just be careful. Don't put him in too many, I wouldn't say. Again, Odell Beckham, same thing. If the Giants can keep up the pace with the Jets, I think Beckham, he's a machine. We've seen him make some impossible catches, and he always seems to be towards the top of the leaderboard. Same with DeAndre Hopkins, but again, he can put up a clunker too. So, be careful. All of these basically are picks that could go off and are pretty expensive, but you got to be careful. Just don't have too much of them. I mean, the higher owned they are, the lower percentage of my lineups I have them in. Brandon Marshall was awesome. Eric Decker's good in the slot. Look out for them. Like I said, if the Giants can keep up with the Jets, they're going to have to keep throwing the ball. The Jets, that is. Crabtree is a good pick for Carr. I think Amari Cooper's too expensive. A.J. Green is going to be one that I really like. Tyler Eifert's out, or he's supposed to be out. We'll see come Sunday morning. But he's been the Bengals' go-to red zone target all year, and if he's out, A.J. Green's going to slide right back into that role. Even without it, he's still a monster. I mean, he puts up 20-plus DraftKings points all the time. So we'll look out for him. Danny Amendola, I think a lot of people are going to be on him because he's so cheap, and New England doesn't have a lot of other passing options with Gronkowski and Edelman out. So I like Amendola more than LaFell. LaFell's more of a deep threat. So if he catches a couple long ones and a touchdown, he might be all right. But I believe he has 0 touchdowns on the year compared to Amendola, who has at least 2 or 3, I believe. So I like him better. Like I said, Olsen is going to have a huge game. He's a beast. He's Cam Newton's favorite passing option. Barnage, he's been one of the best tight ends, but I don't really like his matchup against Cincinnati. But some of these guys are just matchup proof. What can I say? Kyle Rudolph's been really taking off lately. The one week I wrote an article and recommended him was like the week that he put up nothing. But ever since then, he's been tearing it up. So I'm kind of back on him. Odds are he's probably going to fall flat on his face just simply because I have him in some lineups. It's like kind of an inside joke, but yeah, he's been picking up steam lately. So, and Delaney Walker, of course, he's the number one passing option in Tennessee for Mariota. I believe Kendall Wright's coming back this week, so that might take some looks away from Walker, but don't count him out. I mean, he catches a lot of passes, and in a PPR format like DraftKings is, that counts for something when you get 8 or 9 receptions every game. Jordan Reed, he's one of the best tight ends that I like anyway, but, I'll have him in a few just in case, but I'll pair him with Cousins on the ones that I'm playing Cousins, but both of them I'm going to kind of have towards the bottom percentage of my lineups. And then Cameron Brate for the Bucks, being a hometown Tampa boy, I've been impressed with him. He's caught at least a couple touchdowns, and he just seems to be showing up more and more. He's like $2,500. I mean, if you're, at the end of your rope with your salary and you need a pick, $2,500, you really can't beat it for someone that doesn't get a lot of yards but could very easily catch a touchdown. So anyway, those are my picks for this week. Hopefully you can take some information from this video and use it and apply it towards winning a GPP on DraftKings. If that is the case, give me a shout and I'll put you in the next video and let everybody know about your success. Hopefully I'm the one bragging about my success next week, but maybe we can tie. I can deal with that. So good luck, grinders. Hopefully this is the week for you, and look forward to hearing from you. All right, good luck.